This October special, we read Not Today, Satan by Calliope Stewart.
An angel costume Omega, an accidental summoning, and one lonely devil. Art student Eden Evans is your average college going Omega. When she's not in class, she's either painting or waiting for her alpha crush to finally notice her. That is, until the annual Kappa Sigma Psi Halloween party arrives to shake things up. It's the place to be on October 31st, and Eden's art skills just landed her a coveted invite. Now all she needs to do is help decorate for the party. Easy peasy, right? Wrong. When Eden's decorating attempts summon a whole lot more than spooky vibes, her Halloween night quickly goes from fun to downright sinful. Read at your own risk, and happy Halloween. Welcome to October, where Ariel's a bitch. But yes, welcome to October, and welcome to Spoopy season. And in honor of Spoopy season, I have this cute mug that only Ariel can see, and if she uses these as clips, I have a mug, and it just says, "I love a good murder," and it's
I'm
a
not using
crow.
it.
I don't care. And it has crows on it, and I have a bird. The best part is the bird is surrounded by the dolls that Ariel got me, and it looks like they are worshiping a Grim Reaper bird.
We're having a party.
They're having a seance, or they're just like having a devil's circle. Surprisingly, that ties in really well with our book today.
So, we were supposed to talk about the movie.
Here's the thing about this movie. Did you watch it?
No, because my life fell to shambles.
Oh, so I watched 10 minutes of this movie, 12 minutes of this movie, and then I stopped. Now, here's the thing. If you do not read the book, you will enjoy this movie.
Oh, okay.
If you read the book,
I feel bad because I wanted to read the book, but my life just went to the shitter.
here's the thing. She lives in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
Not in the movie. In the movie, she lives in New York. And in the
Huh.
movie, she's meeting with her publisher lady or whatever to set up a book tour,
Okay. Well, you were
which
curious how they were going to turn this into a whole movie.
apparently they decided, meh. She gets a phone call from her mother that the grandfather has driven through the coffee shop.
Not
The
Dunkin'
mother
Donuts.
is, hold on, the mother is in the hospital with the grandfather at the moment. Mhm. The girl ends up going to visit them in the hospital. It's okay though, the grandfather has a sprained wrist. But she gets to the hospital and then she takes the grandfather and they just go downtown.
Downtown.
So, how does she meet Kit, by the way? Oh, he's helping do scarecrows right now, setting up stuff. Not stranded on the side of the road.
So they changed everything.
So then I stopped watching the movie because the grandfather was talking about Pumpkin everything and how much he enjoyed working there. So at minute 12, I stopped because I was like, none of this is the book.
Well,
And
sometimes
and
creative
I fucking
liberties.
no, and here's the thing, I fucking hated the grandfather
Oh, really?
because they made him out to be this like I don't know. Watch the first 10 minutes of this movie so you can express the pain that I had to deal with and understand why I didn't like the grandfather in this like at all. But the fact that the mom was at the hospital with the grandfather was weird, and
Yeah.
she didn't even guilt her into coming like at all. She just drove. And it's so funny because like I don't know if they were just being sassy about it, but she gets to the hospital and they're like
I
doing the
don't,
checkout thing.
well, and I didn't feel like that she really guilted her in the beginning either,
I feel like
because
she
I
very
don't
much
think
was
the
playing on
mother
the guilt
wanted
trip.
her to go. I think the mother wanted to get him in a home.
Well, yeah, it just kind of felt like she. Anyways, but besides the point, she was setting up a book tour for her current book that she just wrote. Doesn't she have? Doesn't she have
Writer's block.
a writer's block and hasn't written for a while? Where is that? Where? No,
So it
I didn't
undermines
finish the
the
movie.
entire
And that's
point.
the thing. I was like, yeah, but how she met Kit was so important, and like getting the backstory of like, oh, she doesn't want to go back because of this, but like where is that? Where is it? Lifetime, what the fuck? Hallmark, what the fuck? Because it was Hallmark, right? Or was it
Yep.
Lifetime?
No, Hallmark.
Hallmark. Maybe Lifetime would have done this better. I don't know.
or passion flicks.
God, well, Passion Flicks would have been great if there was sex in the book, but there wasn't any. So we can't go to Passion Flicks. Anyways, we are not here to discuss the immense amount of anger I feel towards this Hallmark movie. We
Nah,
are here
we have a
to,
Halloween special today.
that should not be turned into a Hallmark movie because there was so much sex in this one.
It was a novella.
Welcome to October. It is our first special of the month. And you know what? I decided to bring you Satan. The dedication to this book just says to all my witchy girls who wondered what summoning a demon would be like, this one's for you, which, I mean, I probably would have summoned a lot more demons when I was younger if I knew this was the case. Maybe. Happy Halloween!
This is Halloween. This is
This is
Halloween.
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 Anyways, it was a dark and spooky night. I'm just kidding. This book opens with Eden, and she is not sure when she stopped believing in things that go bump in the night, but it was probably somewhere between when her parents divorced and going back and forth between houses, which understandable. But this is when she learned that scary things in books and movies were not the worst thing that could happen to a person. Oh boy. She just felt like a happy ending was not in store for her. She found out that she perfumed, which is an interesting, I'm assuming that is a term, in, I don't know, perfumed as an Omega when she was 15. And this kind of seemed like it came as a relief to her parents because then she's not going to live with either one of them. And she went to go live at the Omega Center. And going to this specific center had helped her get into Van White University, which is a university made for and by alphas and omegas, and it offers education in a place that could tend to alpha and omega needs better than a regular beta university could.
Man, we
Her
got some
parents hated her.
shitty parents this week. Just
The good
wait, just wait to
news.
see what we have in store coming for Friday for shitty parents. You
Oh
ain't
boy.
seen nothing yet.
Oh, good Lord. Currently, Eden is in her art class painting away. The assignment theme of the day is horror in honor of the upcoming Halloween season. It's a painting class. Her painting teacher tries to be a little bit vague with her themes, mostly to try to pull out the artistic side of everybody painting. Currently, her painting is on the simpler side. It's just a canvas filled with gray mist with a clawed hand reaching towards her. It didn't really invoke feelings of horror in her. I have to be really careful when I say that word, otherwise, it comes out as horror. But her teacher did
Mm.
not need to know this. Yeah. Normally, she doesn't go too rogue when it comes to her classes, but this image of mist has been in her dreams almost for every single night for almost an entire month. And she never saw more than the clawed hand because as soon as the mist cleared enough for her to see the outline of something, same brain apparently, she wakes up. In this painting class, she also has her friend Cleo, who they've been living together since they were at the Omega Center when they were 13. And which
Please
is
do
weird
not,
because yep, nope, because
please do
she
not
didn't
make
learn
the
till
same
she,
mistake the book made.
which is insane that they say 13 because she was 15, but that's besides the point. This woman does not have a filter, by the way, Cleo, not a single one. Of course,
So she's
Cleo,
known her since she moved into the Omega Center when she was 15, and then she's been her roommate.
yes, so they've been
And
roommates.
now they
And they were
are
roommates, sorry,
college roommates
roommates.
together. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Cleo is a little jealous of how good Eden's painting is because painting is not Cleo's strong suit. Cleo is a sculptor. She does also really like to sculpt a lot of penises. So she puts penises into literally everything she sculpts for school, which is so funny.
I mean, we
Yeah.
all have our talents.
Hey, listen, she likes penises. I don't know what to
That,
tell you.
that's more power to you.
All of a sudden, a group of alpha football jocks are going across the quad, and her best friend shouts for one of them, whose name is Justin. And Eden gets a sinking feeling in her gut because wherever Justin is, Kyle was not far behind him. Justin is Cleo's boyfriend, and Kyle is a guy that Eden thinks is hot. He is a 6'4" football god who transferred into the university. Apparently, he was a late bloomer and had only presented as an alpha after he turned 20, so I don't know how old this guy is. Kyle,
They, I believe they're
I actually have no idea
all,
how old any of these people are.
if my deductions were correct throughout it, they're all about 20.
Sounds great. Yeah, so Kyle tells Justin and Cleo to get a room because fucking Justin and Cleo are just making out in this goddamn quad. And Cleo's like, you know what? That sounds great.
They're in
And
their
they,
junior, what would be our junior year.
gotcha.
Sorry.
Cleo says that sounds great. And they're going to go back to their dorm, which means the room that Eden and Cleo share is going to smell like sex because they share a room. That's gross. But now that they've left, Eden has a really hard time talking to Kyle because she likes to have Cleo there as a buffer, and he's just so handsome. And he has curly brown hair, he's chiseled jaw, and he smells like caramel. She spaces out, and Kyle asks if she's all right, and she goes, "Yeah, sorry, I gotta go paint something." Leaves. After her encounter with Kyle, she spends most of October throwing herself into her work, but she is still sitting in front of this giant blank canvas, not knowing what to do. The teacher's theme for their midterm was desire, and she had no idea what the fuck that meant. And every time she put her brush into the paint, she just froze. 10 minutes later, she walks up into her dorm room and wakes Cleo up because Cleo's sleeping and she's going to be really late for sculpting class and her midterm if she doesn't go. Cleo asks her if she's going to go to the party with her and the boys tonight. Eden says, "No, I have to finish my painting, apparently." There is this huge annual Kappa Sigma Psi Halloween bash that happens, and they have been trying to secure an invite to this party for the last 2 years. And Cleo says, if we want an invite, you have to show your face once in a while. So they think that going to this party will secure them a spot into going to the Halloween party. Eden, not a fan of parties. The lights and sounds are just way too much, which I can understand, and I'm pretty sure Ariel could definitely vibe with that a lot. That's all I could think of.
I don't leave my house.
Eden also thinks that Cleo will be fine to go to this Halloween party because she's dating Justin. But Eden does agree and says, if I want to leave at any point, we go. And Cleo's just so excited and heads off to her midterm. Eden curls up with her iPad and opens up her drawing app and just doodles away and decides that she's going to take a little bit of a nap. Of course, while she's sleeping, she has a super sexy dream about the mist. And in this dream, the mist is crawling up her legs and it talks to her and says, "Let's make a deal." She wakes up moaning, and it takes her a minute to realize that the beep sound going off from the dream is actually her alarm that she had set on her phone before she fell asleep. And she sits up after trying to gain her bearings after having the hottest dream she's ever had. And she realizes that not only had she come in her dream, but it hadn't even fully satisfied her. She hopes that opening up the window in her room would be enough to get rid of the majority of her scent of her arousal in the room. And she also grabs the air freshening spray that Cleo always uses after having sexathons with Justin and gives the room a good spray. Then she goes and takes a shower to try to clean herself up because obviously, like, she's got stuff leaking down her legs. It's called slick, okay? I get it. It's fine. But she really needs to come again. So she directs the spray onto the bench and she sits down on it. And normally she doesn't indulge herself often outside of her heats, but during her heats, she uses fucking every single toy available to her. But right now, she just really, really needs to come again. She tries to think about Kyle, but none of it works. And instead, the image that comes up in her head is the clawed hand from the mist in her dream. And she thinks about that and also Kyle's caramel scent.
But she can't get off to Kyle's caramel scent. And all of a sudden, she's overwhelmed by the scent of whatever the fuck else, whatever you got there of the other scent. And that's
It's
what
like
does it for her.
cinnamon and nutmeggy. Then we get the perspective of Luke, and he is the devil. And sleep for the devil is not something that happens very often because he rarely needs it. But he slept, though, because it lets him take a peek into the world above. And he never knew what his mind would stumble upon when he slept because time in hell was super odd. But now, when he opened his eyes, he realized he had gotten a little more taste of what was going on upstairs. And he actually interacted with somebody. And the memory of her face is a little bit blurry, but he can still smell her. He glances over at the bed table clock and it just says the word late on it, which, by the way, fucking hilarious. I love that so much. He gets up and dressed for the day. It should be noted that hell is not exactly what everyone thinks it is, and he is also fully aware of the caricatures of him that are floating around upstairs, and he's pretty sure that Gabriel played a joke so long ago and it stuck. But hell itself is actually very organized. He goes in and he's got 2,312 files that he needs to go through. And he just, he misses the days where he could just sit on his shiny throne and have each soul come up and plead their case. But now Max from HR made sure that those days are gone. Apparently, when Max came down, through pleading for his soul, he convinced him that hell needed to get organized and he would have so much free time if he just streamlined everything. And it worked. He had a lot of free time and now shit was super fucking boring. So He's just going through all these files and he has to decide where he's sending them, purgatory, actually to hell. But even as he's reading about some of the worst human beings, he just can't shake the scent of apples, which, by the way, is her scent. Or when he experienced this woman, it's not often that his mind connects with someone who's still alive, and he could only count on his fingers how many times it's happened. And the only way for him to visit the upstairs is to be summoned by a mortal, specifically in Omega. And the last time it happened, he got yanked into a dark cave in the 1800s, which was great. But yes, if Omega desired something so much, they could use his symbols to, like, whatever, build this wall between hell and earth, and it could be just enough to let him through so he can make a deal with them. Excitement starts to go through his body and his cock gets really hard. And he really needs to get a handle on these feelings, but it was just so rare that something so interesting happened to him that he just unbuttons his pants and lets his tail pull out his cock, and green pulses of light slide down his tail as he starts to masturbate with it, which I was like, we get tail action. This is fantastic.
Yep. I was also here
I
for
was
that.
so happy for that. Eden has decided that parties are really not her thing. The fraternity house looks like any other suburban home if you smash two houses together to create what she calls a super house. This was her second time in the house, and the house was dingy at best, but it's just too hot inside, and the surrounding sense of the alphas and omegas are just way too dizzying, so they go outside. Cleo spots Justin and basically leaves her fucking behind, and someone taps her on the shoulder. His name is Raymond. He's also really drunk. And he asks if she's Cleo's roommate. He does not get her name right most of the time. Again, he is very drunk. And she goes, yeah. And he tells her they actually need her help. They found this creepy old house on the edge of town that no one's lived in for like 20 years, and they're going to throw a party there, and they need an expert decorator. They
And
want
Cleo
her,
told and
oh,
Cleo told them that she
is an artist.
is a good artist. Yeah.
Yeah, they want her to draw creepy stuff with chalk, like satanic symbols, pentagram, shit like that. Their theme is a dance with the devil. She agrees and says, why not? Eden goes back inside the house and it's just packed full of people. So Ariel's complete fucking nightmare. Ariel honestly probably wouldn't even be caught dead there, so that's besides the point. And she is sweating because there's just an immense amount of people. And she heads upstairs to a bathroom. She goes inside, shuts the door, and locks it because safety, duh. And she finally tries to just calm herself down. She tells herself, you know what? Just got to find Cleo, let her know you're leaving for the night, and then you could go home, curl up in your nest, and start sketching ideas for this Halloween party. She finally gathers up the courage to leave the bathroom, and she hears the sound of a moan coming from one of the doors. And it's half open. By the way, it's Kyle, and he is fucking a woman up against the wall, and she is just standing there, staring at Kyle's bare back as it's rippling from holding the woman up against the wall. And as soon as she hears his voice say, you're so tight for me, aren't you? It really just clears her brain, and she unfreezes and starts to leave. She pulls her phone out to text Cleo and tells her that she has left. Eden wishes that she could rip her eyes out or scrub her brain with bleach, but at the same time, she wants to go back and watch the rest of Kyle and whoever this girl was. She feels like a little bit of a pervert. Okay.
Voyeurism.
Yeah, Luke can feel the Omega's need as if it was shouting at him in his sleep, and it tasted of tart apples, normally, which he also, Granny Smith apples is what it is, but tart Granny Smith. I don't really like Granny Smith apples. I like them in an
I
apple pie, though.
love Granny Smith apples.
I'm not a Granny Smith apple girly. It's what I don't really like green grapes either.
I like green grapes also.
You know what's really gross? The taste of like fake apple shit, like the green apple like lollipops and stuff.
I like those. But I don't
See,
like fake orange or fake grape or fake
See, I love fake
cherry.
grape. I don't like fake orange or cherry. So give me all the grape shit. Anyways, at this point, the Omega soul that was calling for him would have faded by now. But if anything, it's actually getting super strong every day. And her need has been almost as desperate as it was confused. He should stop thinking about it and focus on sorting souls and running around. But in the dream that he's had with her, he's gotten more of a glimpse of this Omega. He wants her, but unfortunately, desire and want are two different things. And then he ends up stroking himself until he finishes. So there's that. He goes into the office, and his entire office is filled in post-it notes. I would love a book of just the office life of this devil's office because it seems like really fun, right? Apparently, it's a prank from the HR guy. And normally, he would have laughed, but his skin was still itchy from his dream earlier.
He's
And he
not in the
really,
mood.
no, and he wants to chuck the HR manager into the fiery pits outside of his office and make him
His
swim through the
assistant is
flames.
like, "We
No.
should go now.
Funny.
This is not the right time."
No, it's great. He sits behind his desk and he stares at this giant pile of folders, but he could not make himself pick any of them up. After the party, Eden threw herself into work for the next 2 weeks, leading up to the Halloween bash. She finally finished her desire painting, even though she's not super happy with it. Cleo has asked her many times, like, what happened, but she didn't know how to tell her that she was heartbroken about her crush having sex with someone else, but she also had been super turned on. So, like, she didn't know how to explain this to Cleo, which use those words, just exactly those words. That's how you explain it. But she goes to the library so she could research as much as possible for the symbols and stuff she needs to draw for this house. Surprisingly, they had an entire section of the occult. I'm not surprised at all. She was skimming through some books trying to find something, but everything was so fucking boring and not what she's looking for. And all of a sudden, there's a thumping noise, and a small book had fallen off the shelves. Oh my God, it's a book, and it was
It's
made
a
of leather.
plane.
And as she's flipping through it, she realizes these are the symbols I want. This is exactly what I have been looking for. Does she understand what any of the words in this book say? Absolutely not. And you know what? I feel like that should be a sign that you probably shouldn't use this book. But you know what? It's Halloween.
Who are we to judge?
We don't judge because what she gets out of this deal is great. So, okay, maybe I won't read things and I'll just do what it asks. Sorry.
True story, bro.
But then she leaves the library. But then she realizes she, one, never checked out the book, and two, the library sensors never went off. So this book definitely didn't belong in this library. But, anyways, that's the point. As they are getting ready for this party, Cleo is telling her, "You're not wearing that, are you?" Because she's just in a t shirt and leggings. I would be wearing that. Because obviously she's not going to dress up in a costume if she's going to paint and decorate. But Cleo has other ideas because it's a costume party. And actually, had bought her a costume. Everything fits her to a T, so Cleo knew that she was probably going to pull this shit and just bought her a costume anyways. And it's an angel costume. So it's a very slutty angel costume, but like more dressed up than other people would be because other people would be in like thongs and bras. At least she's got some coverage. She's got a lot of cleavage though. Cleo does her hair, her makeup, and she just looks hot as fuck. And off they head to the party house. The house itself looks like someone it had seen some better days. And at some point, someone had painted it white, but most of the paint was fading and chipping, which is honestly the perfect setting for a Halloween party. When they get there, Kyle is there and he notices her and says, "Wow, Eden, you look," and then someone interrupts them and saying, "Hot," because they're frat boys, guys. Eden had not seen Kyle since the night of the party, so she's been trying to avoid his eyes. Eden asks Ray if he has everything ready for her in the house, and he says he does. He's also got a bunch of pledges who are so ready to be her minions, and she can be their master. And these men, by the way, are dressed up in baby bonnets and diapers because they have to earn their place in this fraternity. And so she's gonna go get to work. It's very funny. And they're like trying to do whatever she fucking wants. It's annoying the shit out of her, by the way. It would also annoy
She's
me.
like, what the fuck? Go away.
Yeah. After a little bit, Cleo does come in and says, "Hey, we're gonna go do a booze and food run. They're also gonna take the pledges with them." And Cleo's like, "Thank fuck, because I'm so annoyed by these people right now." And Cleo's like, "Also, Kyle's date is here. Like, are you good? Are you uncomfortable?" And she's like, "Not really." But because somewhere in the last 2 hours of decorating, she had really stopped caring about Kyle. So they all leave.
Somewhere in the last 2 hours of drawing all these symbols from this book.
I just forgot that this man existed. So just as she was adding the final details into the ram's eyes, a familiar cramp twisted in her. All of a sudden, she goes, "Oh, it's just a heat spike," because she's already been through heat and her next heat's not due till January. And she normally gets these heat spikes when she's pushing herself too much, but she was mortified to see that slick was leaking down her thighs. And then she realized this is not a heat spike, but full blown heat, which is not great going into heat in a house that was about to be filled with people. this is like the worst thing to fucking happen. And she was so preoccupied with trying to figure out like her escape out of this house that she did not
19,
notice
19, 1985.
what the fuck. How did you get there?
You were so preoccupied.
Oh, okay. I was like, where are we going? Where did you get? I was like, where did you pull this out of your ass?
Never out of my ass. Well, it's always out of my ass, but always somewhere.
Oh my God. She did not notice the glowing coming from beneath her, which is the chalk glowing. And all of a sudden, there's a sound of popping, and it made her jump from the circle. And a voice came through this light green mist saying, well, I had all but lost hope that you would actually be able to summon me. The voice made her insides clench, the mist clear. And it's Lucifer, a man standing before her in a black three-piece suit. He was over 7 feet tall and has two shiny horns crawling out the both sides of his head. And his skin was such a dark green color that it was almost black. And he says, you, my angel, you can call me Luke. Luke, by the way, had been in the middle of their weekly meeting when he started getting a feeling of being tugged, and no one else at the table seemed to notice like his shift in mood. And then he just kept feeling the tug. And then the green mist began to fill the room, and he knew exactly what it was and just said, well, ladies and gentlemen, as interesting as this meeting has been, I've got to take a call. So that's why he's there. Now, listen, this woman is so much prettier than he had expected. He had never been able to clearly make out her features, but that was not a problem now. And he examines her face, and it's like heart shaped with like rounded cheeks and plump pink lips. And of course, you know, after he had introduced himself, she rolled to her feet and tried to launch for the door, which honestly, valid fucking reaction. She tells him, please don't eat me. And he says, I'm not going to eat you. But in his
Again,
brain, he
valid.
thought, at least not in the way that you think. She asks him what he wants. He just goes, don't you know what I want? You summoned me. And she goes, no, I didn't. I didn't do it on purpose. I was just decorating for a Halloween party. Like I've drawn these same symbols in my sketchbook like 100 times, and it never summoned anything, let alone fucking Satan. Luke responds, of course nothing happened, because the spell requires the essence of an omega in heat. And she is like, that's fucking disgusting. Even her reaction. Basically, when her heat kicked in and she leaked all over the floor, it summoned him. He asks what her name is, and she tells him it's Eden. And Luke goes, your name is Eden. You are an Omega named Eden, and you're dressed in an angel costume. And he just starts laughing. He's like, I swear to God, if this is another fucking prank by Max, he's gonna send him straight to forever hell. Eden asks what he wants from her, and he just says, I'm here to make your dreams come true. All we need to do is make a deal. Eden's like, what kind of a deal? Luke tells her it's just going to be like quid pro quo of sorts. You give me something and I'll do something for you in return. She tells him, I like my soul where it is. And he says, I don't require your soul eaten. That is far too precious of a commodity to barter. No, I require something different. I would like your heat.
Whoa now,
Okay.
Nelly.
Yep. At the mention of it, her stomach twists and she asks him, what do you want with my heat? Bitch, really? And
Can
Luke says
can
to
you
share it
take
with you.
someone's heat? Like, is that a
Well,
thing?
Luke says to share it with you. I am of the alpha nature. In fact, I gifted Adam the original alpha with his knot so that he could make sure his mate became pregnant. And it's been a long time since I've shared a heat with anyone. She asks why she can't smell him, and he tells her, oh, well, I've blocked my scent for the time being. We need to come to an agreement before I allow you to scent me, my angel. I would like to hear your decision about the matter. You are very clear.
Because his scent can overwhelm her and he
His
doesn't
scent
want it
is
to
like
take away her.
aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't want it to take away her decision-making skills.
Yes, because it is very, very overwhelming. You are very clearly attracted to my form at the very least. She's like, can you fucking read my mind? And he goes, no, 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 no. Like, I can't do that, but I am an empath and I can feel your nerves slowly fading of fear. And yes, also her arousal. She accepts the deal to share her heat with him, and then she smells him, and he smells like a combination of rain-soaked rock and a fresh cedarwood campfire, which actually probably smells really fucking good, to be honest. He asks her if she's been with a man before, and she says no. And he gets this big ass fucking grin on his face. And then they kiss. He pulls away from this toe curling kiss a little bit sooner than she would have liked. And he tells her, I do believe, Eden, that I'm going to ruin you for any human man that you may encounter after me. But before we get down to business, I think a change of venue is in order. And he snaps his fingers, kind of like Thanos, but not really, because Thanos would just murder everybody, and we're not killing people here. And they end up in a liminal space, and they are going to work through her desires one by one. And he tells her, I want you to make us a nest. Just imagine your ideal nest, and I will do the rest, which rhymes, actually. And so she closes her eyes and thinks about it. And when she opens her eyes, they're standing in the very nest that she imagined. She asks him if he likes it, and he says, I do. It's not what I expected you to conjure up. Like most Omegas prefer dark and cozy rather than light and airy. It's like a solarium with like a sunken bed in the, so it's like beautiful,
Like a
open,
sunroom, yeah.
cozy. Yeah. Yeah. He once again makes sure that she is ready because there is no going back after this. And she doesn't verbally answer. She just kisses him. And then they begin to explore each other. And she was so entranced with the feel of his erection against her stomach that she didn't even notice when Luke hooked a hand behind her knees and they fell together into the sunken nest. And then she realized that despite his calm demeanor, Luke was just as turned on as she was. Now, listen, ever since she agreed, Luke had been barely hanging on to his sanity because her scent is so overwhelmingly sweet. He lets his eyes roam up and down her body, committing it to memory, and she's got a beautiful body in his mind. Like her belly leads into these beautiful her belly leads into these soft thighs that he wants to suffocate himself between, which is impossible because he can't die. He could just not wait any longer to taste her, and he buries his face between her thighs. And Omega's normally tasted good to alphas, but her taste was unlike anything he had ever tasted before. His tongue, by the way, she comments, is insane. It's a bit longer than the average human male's, and he can actually shapeshift it to any shape or length that he wants. So he is going to use his tongue to prepare her for his cock. This, I was like, oh, okay, that sounds great to me. And he took his time figuring out what she likes, like listening to her sounds. And somewhere in the middle of her orgasm, she reaches
In
down
the
and
middle of the
grips
night,
in her dreams. You should see the
daydreaming,
things. You should see the things they do.
baby.
Woo! Okay,
Ooh.
sorry. She grips the horns on either side of his head, and Eden did not know yet, but his horns are incredibly sensitive. Eden's entire body is on fire, and normally bringing herself to an orgasm during her heat gives at least some relief, but after this orgasm, there is no relief, and it just stirs the inferno even more. After they kiss a little bit more, Luke asks her if she's ready for him. And her eyes trail down his
Are
body
you
and
ready
look at
for it?
his. What an odd time to put Taylor Swift in here. Her eyes trail down his body and look at his cock.
There's
And
never
she,
an odd time for Taylor Swift.
and she sees a trail of glowing pre-cum drizzling from the tip of his cock. And she reaches out and tastes it, and it tastes a little bit
She
spicy,
was brave for
but
that,
like she was very brave for that. It's glowing.
right?
So I feel like, I don't know, I'd be curious
I
too to
I
see
don't
if
know if my first instinct would be
to
to
reach out and
reach out and lick, yeah, taste it,
well,
luminescent,
but
glowing and all that.
yep.
I don't know if that would be my first instinct. I'm just saying.
No. But it's like that sweet kind of spicy that you get from nutmeg or cinnamon. And before she knows it, she's given his cock a few firm strokes and starts to suck on the tip. But he has other plans for his first load. And his tail, yeah, we're at the point of the episode where this is gonna get interesting. His tail snakes between her legs and starts to caress her clit. And she asks him if his tail is sensitive. And he says yes. And she also looks at his horns. And he says, my horns are sensitive too. And then her brain immediately thinks of images of the tip of one of his horns going into her. And he just says, we'll work our way up to that. I can't read your thoughts, but I've been getting flashes of your desires since we made our deal. And I definitely saw the image of my horns and your vagina, he says, pussy, having fun. And then they fuck. And he utilizes the tail as well. And then he flips her over so she's on her stomach and fucks her from behind. And he does ask her, like, can I knot you like this? And she says she wants to see his face. So he flips her back around and he has her straddle him and then asks her to ride him. She begs him to knot her, and so he does. Of course, Eden's experience with knots was limited to porn and Cleo gushing about how her boyfriends felt. She was nowhere near prepared for the fullness of Luke's. Luke tells her, you're such a good girl. You're clutching my knot like you want to milk me dry. And then everything goes black because she falls asleep. Luke's knot is still firmly in her. And I mean, he could make it deflate at any time because he is not bound by the same constraints of a normal human alpha, but he's just enjoying the closeness that they have. She awakens and she asks how long she was asleep. And the doppelganger that he had summoned just answers, not very long. And she jumps with a little bit of surprise, but he can also see the gears in her head going as she takes in the situation. And she just goes, I think I've seen an anime like this before. Sweetheart, I think you're thinking of hentai, not anime, but that's besides the point. And Luke says, you know, you are a naughty little Omega. Your first thought upon waking was being taken by two of me. It was an intriguing thought. She asks him what to call him, this doppelganger, and Luke just says, I call him doppelganger, but you can call him whatever you like. She settles on Star because Lucifer, Morning Star, she calls him Luke. Star makes sense. And while he enjoys these names, he does not like the smug as shit look that the doppelganger was giving him over her shoulder. And he asks himself if it was strange to be jealous of oneself. But here's the thing, they need to loosen her asshole before Star can slide into it. So they work on that. Thankfully, Star being there helps distract her as Luke is working his fingers in her ass. Then he tells her, we're going to take your pussy and your ass at the same time. And then when they're done, they're going to rub our cum all over your body so you glow in the dark.
They
So,
did
like,
not do
there's
that,
that.
by the way.
No, which is depressing.
Yeah.
Eden was more than ready to take a cock in her ass, more than she ever thought she would be. She had always figured that it would eventually be inevitable, and it definitely had been like a favorite thing of hers to watch during her heats while she was, on her own. Luke asks if he should distract her while Star breaks her in. And she watches as Luke's tongue snakes from her mouth, between her breasts, to her stomach, into her thighs, and he starts working her while Star goes into her butt. Luke tells her that he's also going to join in and asks if she's ready to be more filled than she had ever been. And Luke doesn't even wait for her to adjust, and he just bloop, slides all the way home. And they move in like sync, so they'll like do one at a time in and out, and then they'll just like occasionally go both at the same time. It's great. And then she wants to be knotted by both of them. So she wants a knot in her ass and a knot in the front. And they're like, okay, sounds great. And it gives her the most intense orgasm of her life. You're welcome for all of this. When she was finally coherent again, she felt Star push her forward into Luke's arms before he disappears into a cloud of smoke. She makes a little sound of discontent because she's kind of like, oh, fuck. And Luke just says, we'll bring him back soon. It takes a little bit of extra magic to, have him here, but take a rest. I'll be here when your heat flares up again because she kind of needs to rest
Don't be
after
a needy
all of
bitch.
this. Time is super hazy, but they continue to enjoy her heat. She'd fall asleep between sessions just to be awakened by another heat spike, and Luke was always there to make whatever whim she had or fantasy come true. And as they lay there together for a long time, as their final scene melts away from them, they're in fluffy clouds, and she is an angel, which is hilarious because, and she reaches blindly for Luke and touches his horns while he's still knotted inside of her from behind. Luke says, I must say, I've never put my horns in someone before, but I am interested to see how it feels. And he sets another scene of them being underwater and he lets her know, you can breathe. It's fine. And she goes, why underwater? And he's like, to be completely honest, I wanted to show off a little bit. He is also just genuinely curious about how this horn is going to feel in her. She's also curious how this horn is going to feel in her. And at first, she was a little disappointed because it's not nearly as thick and it didn't give her the same burning stretch. But that was very short lived because he lifted her body with the tip of his horn and it like scraped the front. It's curved perfectly. Just, yeah. He tells her that she is playing a very dangerous game, and she just responds with the most dangerous games are often the most fun. And she was so busy playing with the horn that she didn't notice the tail slipping into her ass until it went inside her. And he ends up taking her off of his horn, and then he fucks her and knots her. He can sense that her heat is waning very fast, and he tells her this is going to be our last time together, my angel. And he thought about their last coupling, trying to figure out what the most meaningful would be. An idea comes to his head, and all of a sudden they're standing in the middle of a very crowded party. Again, this is a nightmare. Eden originally was a little embarrassed and asked him what the hell, and he says they can't see you.
They're not real.
Asks they're not real and asks if is that the one that made you feel aroused a few weeks ago because he also conjured up Kyle. And she goes, yeah, I had a crush on him for a long time, but I caught him taking the blonde from behind. And Luke asks her how it made her feel, and she says, I liked it. Like I liked watching them. And Luke asks if she wants to also be watched and that he can make that happen for her. He assures her that they aren't there and they're just conjured from her imagination. There's no repercussions. So Eden says, okay, I want to be watched. And suddenly, all of the students, with just a snap of his finger, they're all naked and they're all like fucking around in the background. And when she makes a noise, all of the couples turn to watch her. Again, nightmare fuel. But like in her mind, that's great. Like, this is like a dream for her. Like, she's enjoying this shit. He tells her to ride him one last time and tells her to memorize the way that his cock feels inside her body. And he knots her one more time and tells her, Eden, it's almost time. Eden says, I haven't even really thought about what I want because, he had all of this stuff and now she's got to decide what she wants from this deal. And he just goes, go with your gut. Eden says, so I can ask you for anything I want. And he goes, yeah, anything you want. And then she smiles. Cleo is telling Eden, yo, Earth to fucking Eden, because she's kneeling on the hardwood floor that she had been decorating before she accidentally summoned Luke. So basically, no time has passed in the real world.
Luke told her that it's only been like minutes in the real world.
Yeah. They're back to right before the party starts. Cleo says the party's starting soon, and Eden says, I'll be done in a few minutes. She runs her hand down her body, and it was almost as if their time had never happened. But there, on the meaty part of her palm, she saw the crescent-shaped silver marks of a bond mark, and a grin went across her face that she would be seeing Luke again, and she couldn't wait. But she just needed to gather some new ideas to bring to her next heat, and that is the end of the book. You're welcome. Happy Halloween.
This is Halloween. This is
This is
Halloween.
Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Rah, rah, rah. Rah, rah, rah. Who's your favorite character?
I think it's a toss up between Luke and the HR guy.
I, dude, same. They are funny. I like them a lot. I want a whole story on this HR. I just want a behind the scenes of everything that goes on in Lucifer's office.
So
Sounds
the
great.
next book is them again with her next heat at
Christmas, right?
Christmas time. Yep.
It's cute.
So I'm wondering if we will get more. And it's
Do
like,
that one.
I wonder if we'll get. Well, I meant I'm wondering if we'll get.
That's my book for December, guys. I'm just kidding.
So don't read it right now. Okay.
No.
I already downloaded
I
it.
I kind of wanted to read it, but least favorite character.
The frat guy.
Kyle?
Yeah.
I was gonna pick Kyle too because I hate him. He only looked at her because she was hot when she turned into hot. Like, I didn't
Right.
like him.
And like he talked her up other times. Like why? I don't know. I felt like he was a player. Player,
Of
player.
course. Play up. Yes. So, Amazon gives us a 4.2 and Goodreads gives us a 3.9.
What did you rate it?
4, I liked it. I had a great time.
So I also had a
I was
great
I was
time.
contemplating bumping it up to like a 4.5, but I couldn't decide. So I said 4. I'll just solidly 4.
I also had a great time. Unfortunately for me, it
There was
would have been
errors, so
higher if there weren't major errors. And I wish I had gotten more of a story. Like it was very snippet like,
Mm.
but that's what it was meant to be. So for me, it was the
Mhm.
3.5.
I had a fucking great time reading this book. This was so much fun.
It was a wild ride. It was fun, actually.
And that is what our last 3 months of the year are here for,
Yeah.
guys. I know that at the beginning of this month, we brought you a book with no smut in it at all.
No.
And then I had to sit there through 12 minutes of this movie and hate life. But you know what? To make up for it, the rest of this month is a wild west land of so much shit.
But now we have tail action, tongue action,
Dude, I was like, oh, we're going doppelganger, tail, tongue,
right?
horns,
What did you
glowing
cucumber rate
cum.
this, right?
Oh shit, I didn't even think about that. I don't know. Where are you going? There was so much. A great time. Knots. There was a lot going on.
6.
I'm gonna probably go probably about the same for 6. There's a good amount going on in there.
Survivability, I would be
I
fine.
would be so
Though I
great.
think I would have him take me with him. I think maybe. I don't know. No, actually, no. No. I
No,
take that
no,
back. This is the
because you
perfect
only have
arrangement.
it really is. You only have to see them once a
Yep.
heat and you're good to go.
Yep.
And they
This
give
is the
you
perfect
orgasm upon it's perfect.
arrangement.
It's like the perfect fucking situation. She
Yep.
doesn't have to deal with stupid frat boys. Like, it's a
Fabulous.
great, it's so great. So,
Happy Halloween. Because this is Halloween.
this is Halloween.
Make sure to keep reading.
And keep it smutty. Speaking of fashion flicks, they're doing Breath of the Black Dog.
The
Oh, let me shut my door. Scrub her blade, her blade, because that's not a word. And B, and two, B, one and B. She's pushing herself too much. I couldn't English for a second. Basically, when her they're in fluffy cows, not cows.
In my dreams, I can smell you so fantastic. I won't tell you. Every morning, I wake up in a cold sweat. Defining it is futile, and inviting it is brutal. Need a warning sign like slippery when wet. Yeah, it's fine, like it's whatever. I guess I'm glad you're not dead. I guess I'm glad that you're not dead.